Well, then she did take it.
Yeah.
Well, I had two students who were and so what I do is I give 5 points extra credit to people that are there.
You probably would be. I'm gonna for every minute you play a game, he's gonna talk for 10.
Oh, there you go.
I didn't know about
Read our first word almost 10 years ago. Made it so you could come inside of the That's right, yeah. So it was designed for the dog. Yeah. Kids have a lot of energy.
And each of us was like, oh, I got outside the camp. Immediately first thing, thanks. All the middle school buses.
I'm already at use my jacket to pull the bus out.
First time or not?
So in the winter, they just back down, because the field was like frozen, so it's actually safer than the back on the field. But now it feels much. He tapped up his wheel a little too far, and just the whole back wheel, so now we're into the bus. So, yeah, let's go out right there. Oh, I get the background. Yeah, they just got knocked.
Oh, nice.
All right, it is 5:45. We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for attending our regular board meeting of March 9th, 2026. We'll start with roll call.
Amy Riddle Swanson,
Here.
Dave Smith,
Here.
Dominique Stewart, Rachel Henderson,
Here.
Dale Dahlke,
Here.
Amber Kirsting, Emily Hines,
Here.
Michelle Dupree, Angela Wolf.
Here. Here. All right, we have a quorum. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And our mission statement. The school district of the Menominee area, by embracing the unique needs and using the strengths of our diverse community, is dedicated to preparing all students to become lifelong learners, caring individuals, and responsible citizens. Do we have any proposed changes to the agenda order tonight? All right, we'll move on to recommendations and commendations. We have two commendations this evening. I think one of them could not be present, so I'm going to read the first one and then have you come up and get your certificate. So this, the School Board of Education of the School District of the Menominee area recognizes Grace Edenborg, a senior at Menominee High School, for being named to the 2026 Wisconsin Journalism Education Association All-State Journalism Team. This honor recognizes outstanding student journalists across Wisconsin for the quality of their work, leadership in student media, and dedication to the field of journalism. As the founder of the Mustang Messenger, Grace has demonstrated exceptional leadership and commitment to student journalism. The Board of Education commends Grace for her initiative, creativity, and for representing Menominee High School with excellence. Thank you so much. Congratulations. All right, and then the board also would like to recognize Aiden Ari, who can't be here tonight, a junior at Menominee High School, for being the 2026 WIAA State Individual Champion in the 138-pound weight class at the WIAA State Wrestling Tournament held at the Kohl Center. By defeating the top-seeded opponent 8-3, Aiden demonstrated exceptional skill, determination, and sportsmanship. Dedication and achievement bring pride to our school and serve as an inspiration to his peers. So, two really exciting representatives of our high school. Thank you so much. Next up, we have more excitement with this month's Highlight on Youth.
Okay, this month's Highlight on Youth is going to be presented by, is it Mr. Drake?
Yeah, I think so.
Paper, rock, scissors.
Mr. Drake, you all know, is the principal at Menominee High School, and the Highlight on Youth report is a collaboration of all the principals. So each school has a slide. In previous years, I would go through and read each slide and talk about each slide, but this year we're having the principals do it, which is much better. So, Mr. Drake, take it away, please.
Well, thank you. So for the high school, we'll start there. You just heard about Aiden and Grace and kind of all the really great things that they're doing. Our spring musical just wrapped up this weekend. 80s Town was the musical and it was outstanding. If you didn't get a chance to get there, I missed out. It was just really great music. And the acting was outstanding, and then the sound design and everything was great. So kids and staff and also our community did a really nice job with that. Recently, the dance team placed 4th in the hip hop division at the recent state competition. We had an FFA national FFA week where our FFA members provided breakfast for staff. They also provided ice cream for all students during lunch, which was quite the endeavor. They did a really nice job with that, and a handful of other things with that too. I don't want to steal all the thunder, so I'm guessing Mac and Tay might have a few other things to add too. I don't want to steal everything, but moving on to the middle school, Pops concert was recently had at the middle school gym. Packed house there as usual, and then the Science Olympiad team at the middle school continues to do really well. They had 5 separate middle school teams, and they won a total of 71 medals at that competition, which is really great. So really cool things happening with the middle school. Out at Knapp, when we still had snow, it looks like they were doing some really cool things out there with some skiing and snowshoeing and ice skating. On top of that, staff and students connected as a school community for the monthly Cardinal Crew meeting. So cool, then we might get some more snow coming up. So, we'll see. Oakmont, the Queen of Hearts visited into classrooms around Valentine's Day about a month ago. The Rossbach, the night at the Rossbach Museum was very well attended by students and the like. And then the 4th and 5th graders delighted the audience. You can see that kind of rectangular picture at the bottom of the light show and some throwback hits as well with the time machine. The River Heights Elementary School had 420, this is astonishing, 425 parents, students, and family members joined for the Title I Winter Carnival Night. That's a lot of people. And the 2nd and 3rd grade families joined for the first music concert of the year as well. Also sounded like there was a friendly basketball game had there recently. And then lastly, Wakanda. Great new tradition began with the weekly Bright Wakanda Stars, which they're being recognized for their great ways in which they're exemplifying the Wakanda way. They celebrated Read Across America Week, and they had a balloon dance recently as well, which sounds interesting and like a great time at night. So that kind of wraps up everything for all the schools. Any questions?
Thank you so much for presenting that. It's super fun to see all the pictures every month. Next up, we have student representative communications. I've been wondering all week if we'll get it in trademark harmony. But go ahead and take it away.
Good evening, members of the school board. Once again, we thank you for this opportunity to share the recent activities happening within our school. MHS students have been very busy lately, and we are excited to share what they've been up to. The entire forensics team has advanced through sub-districts in the first step to qualifying for the state competition at UW-Madison. The team has also taken first place in all 4 invitationals they've competed in this season. They have one more invitational this month, as well as districts, to see if they qualify for state. Hadestown Teen Edition was a huge success with over 650 tickets sold, as well as $700 in donations raised for the Mustang Corral Booster Club in the first weekend of performances alone. Audiences raved about the caliber of performances, from the technical effects to the choreography to the high level of singing. Students have been involved in every aspect of this performance, such as assistant choreographing, costuming, running the light and sound board, stage managing, and more. The second weekend did not disappoint, and the community filled the auditorium. The creative team has shared that they are incredibly proud of all of the efforts, dedication, and passion of our students. Hadestown absolutely requires all 3, and the cast and crew demonstrated them all in spades. Business World Day was hosted on February 20th as part of the Mini Business World / Wisconsin Business World Foundation. It was a one-day immersive entrepreneurship program. Students jumped into the world of business by forming teams, developing innovative products, crafting marketing and budget plans, and pitching their ideas in a lively mock trade show just like real entrepreneurs. Throughout the day, participants demonstrated creativity, collaboration, and real-world problem solving. They also presented and developed many stand-up projects that reflect not only student ingenuity, but also the power of experiential learning and fostering entrepreneurial thinking, teamwork, and practical business skills. Business World Day gave students hands-on experience in building a business from scratch, deepening their understanding of business principles, innovation, and the role entrepreneurs play in our economy. We're proud of every participant and excited to see how these young innovators continue to grow, dream big, and lead with creativity. FCCLA regionals were held on February 4th at UW-Stout. Darla Woodford competed in Level 3 baking and pastries and scored a gold, which qualified her to move on to the state competition in April, which will be at the Kalahari in the Wisconsin Dells. Kate Schofield competed in sports nutrition level 2 and she earned a silver, and Kate is also an ambassador for FCCLA and will travel to the state conference in April. On Saturday, February 7th, 26 MHS FBLA members competed at the Region 1 competition at St. Croix Central High School in Hammond, Wisconsin. 37 schools and nearly 600 students attended, competing in testing, speaking, and performance events. The top 3 places moved on to state on April 12th and 13th in Green Bay.
MHS FBLA members did an amazing job. The results are as follows. First place, Advanced Accounting for Ben Doms, Introduction to Parliamentary Procedure, Anna Weber, Financial Planning, Portia Lee and Tavarius White. Second place, Advanced Accounting, Charlie Meixel, Banking and Financial Services, Liam Walkowitz, Website Design, Ali Al-Nali, Ari DeLong and Noah Winder, Healthcare Administration, Kennedy Nolan, Introduction to FBLA, Tristan England, third place, Business Ethics, Jordan Oman, and Career Portfolio, Amelia Weber, and we had an additional state qualifier in leadership of Ellie Zadowski. The Menominee High School FBLA chapter also earned first place in community service involvement for Region 1. Congratulations to all students on their outstanding achievements and professionalism.
Congratulations to the 6 Mustang wrestlers Bailey Casey, Aiden Ari, Aaron Howard, Luke Pember, Jacob Anderson, and Bryce Shepard that left it all on the mat last week at the state competition in Madison. Every wrestler competed a minimum of 3 times over the course of 3 days. At the end of the competition on Saturday night, Aiden Ari came out on top as the new D1 state champion at 138 pounds. Congratulations, Aiden.
15 of our exceptional DECA students qualified for the State Career Development Conference held in Lake Geneva from February 22nd to the 25th. DECA is a powerful local, state, and international organization committed to preparing emerging leaders and entrepreneurs for careers in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management. Through competition, conferences, and business mentoring, career-focused students build essential professional skills. Congratulations to all 15 state qualifiers for representing Menominee with distinction. These include Nick Bassani, Kellen Lehman, Everett Paulson, Blake Behrens, Chase Pember, Rachel Riepel, Callie Travis, Max Yeager, Aiden Anderson, Darla Woodford, Kiara Weicker, Aubrey Schluter, Bryson Lyses, Evelyn Doyle, and Grace Edenborg. We're incredibly proud to announce that 3 competitors have qualified to advance to the DECA International Career Development Conference in Atlanta, April 24th to 29th. Chase Pember earned first place in the Hotel and Lodging Management Series, which is an individual series, and he achieved the highest score across all areas. Aiden Anderson and Max Yeager earned their spot with their stellar school-based enterprise school store report. These students are truly student leaders of the Menominee Business Education and Marketing Program. Our students continued their success at the J.A. Titan Business Challenge held at UW Eau Claire on March 5th. 2 teams competed, both holding top 3 spots throughout the challenging simulation. A huge congratulations to Nick Bassani and Chase Pember, whose team won first place. Their victory secured a $1,000 scholarship for each of them and earned them a spot at the Wisconsin State Titan Challenge on May 7th. The other competing team included Tyler Reagan, Ben Doms, and Tristan Householder.
On Wednesday, March 4th, 10 Educators Rising students represented our program at the state competition in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Students competed in several events, including Ethical Dilemma, Exploring Student Support Service Careers, Public Service Announcement, and Interactive Bulletin Board. Multiple students earned medals by placing 1st through 3rd in their respective events. Additionally, the team competing in the Public Service Announcement event, which focused on teacher recruitment, received a top rating. This recognition also qualifies them to advance to the national competition in Portland, Oregon.
Dunn and Pepe County hosted a Job Olympics at UW Stout for 6 local area schools. Students engaged in 9 job-related activities and concluded the event with a pasta buffet lunch. We thank Wisconsin Dunn Energy Cooperative and the Community Foundation for their financial support, UW Stout for providing space in the Student Center, Goodwill for sponsoring the top 10 awards received by students, and the Menominee School District for supporting the leadership of CCOT. We also have a thank you card that we will give you guys at the end.
Menominee Science Olympiad won the 13-team regional championship over BRC large schools Hudson, New Richmond, Oakland Memorial, and Chippewa Falls, and the small school state champions Boyceville. The team brought home medals in 27 of the 28 individual events. The JV team also brought home many medals, and they earned an at-large bid to compete at state, as they are one of the top JV teams in the state. The regional event champions include Alex Heckendorf and Oliver Lugo in bungee jump, Ellie Beck, Oliver Lugo, and Logan Topper in experimental design, Luke Ray and Logan Topper in ping pong parachute, Ben Stegman and Brianna Klimek in forestry, Brianna Klimek and Ellie Beck in horticulture, Ella Weinberger and Proda Mitra in designer jeans, Keely Schaefer and Tony Fioroni in water quality, Jay Beston and Grace Edenborg in entomology, Luke Ray and Nora Skorcheski in dynamic planet, Grant Nigon and Noah Sabelko in parachute.
HOSA hosted their regional blood drive and saved up to 93 lives. The HOSA students gained valuable experience by planning, running the drive, and serving donors. Now they are gearing up to compete at the state competition.
March is Youth Art Month. The district's art teachers have partnered with UW Stout's Art Education Department to display student artwork at the Raw Deal for the month of March. There are many fantastic pieces of student art on display right now, and they have opportunities for awards. Please go to the Raw Deal to check out the K-12 student artwork and to vote for which piece will receive the People's Choice Award. There's also a bunch of student artwork on display at the Menominee Culvers through the month of March. Make sure to grab some food from Culver's on Monday, March 23rd between 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. 10% of proceeds will go towards the art department and 100% of tips in the tip jar will go towards the art department. Make sure to also check out the student artwork on display at the Menominee Public Library this month.
We have exciting news to report from the State Conservation Awareness Poster Contest held March 4th through 6th, 2026 in Wisconsin Dells. MHS Environmental Biology student Bryn Smiskey received 3rd place in her division.
That was a really long report, but that's all we have for tonight, so thank you.
Thank you both so much. It was a long report, but I loved every second of it. It's one of my favorite things to hear about. And everybody has said it, including yourself, but Heidi's town was just amazing. I saw it twice, congratulations. All right, next up we have community communications. It does not look like we have any speakers tonight. So we'll move on to revenue and expenditure reports for the month ended February 2026.
Yeah, so for February 2026, we'll start with the revenue report. The biggest change from last month is that we are now beginning to see property tax revenue come in, which was not reflected in the January report. Of course, property taxes are one of the district's largest revenue sources, so it's normal to see that number increase at this point in the year. Also worth noting in the revenue side is admissions. So the budget for admissions was just over $128,000, and as you can see, we've already collected almost $130,000 in admissions. Meaning we have, exceeded the full year budget with some months still remaining. So moving on then to the expenditures report by object. Overall spending continues to progress as normal. Of course, salaries and benefits continue to make up the largest share of our expenditures. One category that is slightly higher compared to last year is travel and transportation, which includes student transportation and also activity travel. As you can see, it's about 1.63 million year to date, which is somewhat higher than we were at the same point last year. And then finally, in the expense report by function, you will notice in the 490,000 function series, under the other non-program transactions, we had another property tax chargeback. So these occur when the Department of Revenue adjusts property tax collections after the fact, usually due to settlements on specific properties. And so the district is required to return a portion of the taxes that were previously received. If you recall, last year we had a similar adjustment. It was a little bit less this year than last year. While it stands out on the report, it's not unusual. So overall, the financial reports continue to track closely with our expectations for this point in the fiscal year.
I think you mentioned this last month and I've forgotten. Could you remind me the jump in the apparel line on my
So a lot of that is Fund 21, and a lot of that as well was an encumbered amount, which means that it is kind of sitting in suspension, but it hasn't actually been spent yet. When I do a future budget revision, I will likely increase that to just accommodate the extra expenses, again, mostly in Fund 21.
This might be more a question for Dr. Zadowski, but with respect to the increase in admissions, we had approved a couple of changes to admissions this year, is that right? Or was it last year that they started? And it was increased in some areas, but then decreased in others, right? Was more student-free admission?
Yeah, I think that was the previous year, if I remember right. A lot of it has to do with just the, number of events, you know, not every year, the schedule's not the same. And then also, just, I mean, we heard it, the great things that our kids are doing, definitely makes a difference, so, yeah, we've had great support from our community, and, you know, most of the admissions happen in the fall and the winter, there aren't as big of, events typically in the spring, maybe some track or something, but for the most part, most of the admissions are in the fall and winter.
Good. Well, it's good to see that the numbers going up, even if it's just a little bit, not, I guess it means that the changes haven't had a negative impact on them. Any other questions or discussion on the revenue and expenditure reports? And if not, then we will review the monthly employment report for February 2026. This is an informational report. Does anyone have questions or discussion about any of this?
I would just like to point out, I know the board, you were providing an update on this before, but we did have a resignation here at the Administrative Service Center, and we were able to reorganize duties. And I really appreciate the collaboration that we had here between the administrators, the clerical staff, trying to just figure out ways that we can provide the best services possible at the most efficient way. And we were able to do that, and so far it's going really, really smooth, and almost like, you know, why didn't we do this sooner? So there will be a savings there, but also I think our service will improve as well.
Right. Moving on to our consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Hines moves. Alright. Tonight, we have minutes from the regular board meeting of February 9th, 2026, and the special board meeting of February 23rd. Financial reports, we have general fund checks totaling $2,578,825.09, and cash receipts totaling $6,498,828.34. Under donations exceeding $1,000, we have received $8,177 in donations from community members and organizations to the Food Service Angel Fund. And the Wakanda 5th grade received $3,750 from the PTO to support the Frank Lloyd Wright field trip. Also in the consent agenda, we have the shared service contracts with CISA 10 and CISA 11, as we discussed at our last meeting. Any questions or discussion on the consent agenda? All right, let's vote. And motion passes unanimously. Next up, we have the personnel consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the personnel consent agenda.
Second, yeah.
All right, we have one resignation tonight. Michelle is echoing my sentiments, but we can't vote no and keep a teacher from moving. Otherwise, other questions or discussion on the personnel consent agenda? I know I have two children who have been very lucky to have Ms. Lone as part of their elementary careers, and I'm sad to see her go.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo that too. My daughter's currently in this Sloan's class.
Ms. Lone, if you're listening, we are very sad.
We're beloved by all the kids who come to your class.
But we have to vote. And and motion passes unanimously.
Rachel?
Yes.
I should have mentioned this back when we were on the previous item, but I noticed in our weekly report from Joe that we received, that the high school received a bunch of lumber for the Woods Technology class.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't say who that's from.
We can check with Mr. Sterry and get back to you.
The reason I mentioned it, I thought we should recognize them for the
Sure.
donation.
Thank you.
Unless they don't want to go. Anonymous.
Thanks for bringing that up. All right, we have no action items tonight, so on to our discussion agenda. First up, we have a review of our 4K programming agreements for 2026-27.
Great, and Brian Seguin, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, also oversees the 4K programming. So he's done a good job collaborating with the different 4K providers in our community. Brian, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
As Joe indicated, we continue to have good relationships with our community partners that we work with. Process that we use that's worked well for several years is we meet, we review the current agreements that we have in place, discuss some items that we may want to make some tweaks and updates. By and large, the updates that we do from one year to the next are pretty editorial in nature, updating dates, calendars, PD, those types of things. Last year, this current school year, but when we came forward last year, we agreed that on one thing that we were going to look at, which is the rating process that we use. We've been utilizing a tool referred to as the Early Childhood Environmental Rating Scale for several years. It served us well and continues to. However, several of our community sites also go through an additional rating process that's as comprehensive, or in some cases more comprehensive. So we spent a year looking at that in alignment with the tool that we use, and at this point, we're recommending that we allow those sites that use those existing tools, such as the Youngstar process or the NAEYC accreditation process, to utilize that. And taking a look at that, and for them providing access to all of those evaluation tools for us, I feel very confident that that would be more efficient, and at the end of the day, helps us be a little more efficient with our costs as well. So that is a recommended update this year. And then the other piece, the state of Wisconsin no longer requires the documentation of parental involvement hours. So as we went through this year, we took a look at that process. While parental involvement continues to be an important part of quality programs, that's a piece that's included in the evaluation process, but requiring that additional documentation seems a bit redundant, so we're looking at removing that. Other than that, the only other piece that we look at on an annual basis is the reimbursement rate. And in meeting with the directors, and after we went through and took a look at compensation, at this point, we're recommending a CPI increase for our sites. And in your background, you were provided the current reimbursement rates for the two-tier system that we have, and the proposed increase that those sites would get based off of that increase. Right now, we have very quality programs in our community. All of our sites would qualify for that higher rate reimbursement. At this point, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have related to the agreements or anything else that fits with this agreement.
Could you remind me how many sites we have in each tier?
So right now, all of our sites are in that upper tier, and our community partners that we partner with would be Unity Stout Child and Family Study Center, Milestones Education Community, Head Start, and then St. Joseph's School.
Do you have a sense at this point of how well that number of sites is meeting the capacity? Or meeting the need, I guess, or what the capacity is?
Yep, so right now, our current year numbers, we have some space available for additional students when new families enroll. We've been able to accommodate that without any problems with ins and outs. The exact number of what I'll call vacant seats right now, I would have to get back to that exact number, but we are operating somewhat close to our current capacity. But when we take a look at our projected numbers that we've had the last couple of years, I know last year we had a brief conversation about did we want to add a site or did we want to look at adding a section within one of our existing buildings. Ultimately, we didn't add a section, but we knew that if we needed to
throughout the course of the summer, if enrollments would go up, that we had the potential to do that. As we look ahead to next school year, I think we'll probably be in a somewhat similar case where we'll be, nearing capacity with a number of sections.
I realize that these programming agreements are fairly pro forma, right? It doesn't change much year to year. Am I getting this right, that this school year, you, along with the 4K partner sites, have also been engaged in that kind of kindergarten and 4K readiness?
That is,
meeting?
yep,
Or-
that is correct.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of curious how those two things interplay.
So, on a monthly basis, we meet either with our 4K teachers or our 4K directors. And one of the tasks that we had this year was to take a look at readiness for school and what does that look like for a student to be 4K ready leading into 5K readiness. And then our 4K teachers, along with our 5K district kindergarten teachers, will be meeting as part of our upcoming April Professional Development Day to look at both some transitional pieces, but also to take a look at developing a set of communications to go to families as to what 5K ready looks like. Recognizing that we have students that participate in 4K in our community, students who do not participate in 4K, students who may be at an in-home child care or private child care center. So putting some information together to help communicate to families. And I think a very vital part of that is making sure there's a clear understanding between what the 4K experience looks like in our community, so that that can help guide that conversation. But also, along with that, recognizing that every one of our students has a 4K experience, so we want to make sure we have that information available to families. So our next step is April PD Day, when those 4K and 5K staff will be meeting together, taking a look at the drafts of documents that we have ready to go. We did include in our 4K registration packet this year a set of expectations or targets that families could be looking at as they're getting students ready for their 4K experience, and then we'll do something similar for families for rising kindergarten students as well.
Thank you for that. Are there other questions or discussion?
Just out of curiosity, Brian, are the 5K teachers and the 4K teachers, are they all going to meet in April, or is it representatives?
Every single one of them.
Super.
Other questions or discussion? All right, so this will come back for board approval again for the 4K programming agreements in April. Or at our next meeting. Moving on, we have a discussion of the staffing plan for 2026-27.
Okay, so in alignment with the different timelines that the board has seen in terms of, the preliminary budget and then looking at course requests, now we had compensation plans completed. Now we're looking at the staffing plan for the 2026-2027 school year. And we will be asking for board approval at an upcoming meeting, but this is kind of the first look at it for the board. As we talked about in those previous circumstances with the preliminary budget, we are looking at some declining enrollment, especially at the elementary level. So as we have looked at the sectioning that will be needed for next year, along with course requests at the upper levels, the staffing plan being provided tonight does show an overall decrease of just a little over 4 FTE instructional staff. That would be 4.3 teacher FTE. Right now it's anticipated to have the same number of para FTE for paraeducators, but that fluctuates a little bit based on student needs, IEP goals, things like that. But this is the base staffing plan. In the event that we would need to add additional staffing, if we had a large number of move-ins over the summer, and we plan for some move-ins, but if it was much larger than what was planned for, we would bring back a staffing plan adjustment for your consideration. And we just had one at the last meeting for the current school year, so you're familiar with that process. But I really think the principals did a nice job trying to maximize, providing our students with high-quality staff members. We have also tried to combine some positions to make some of the positions more sustainable, to provide full-time positions instead of part-time positions by combining some services. Probably the biggest example of that would be sharing specialized teaching services between Wakanda Elementary School and Napa Elementary School, with art, music, and Fayed being provided between Napa and Wakanda in a 3-day rotation. So that would be a change. There was something like that several years ago, but this would be kind of a readoption of that. And then finally, we would have a school counselor that is working part-time at Napa Elementary School, would provide additional service at Menominee High School. And we think that's a great use of that resource as well. So I guess, board members, you've had an opportunity to review this. Any questions? And then, I don't know, Sam, was there anything else that you wanted to point out at all?
No, I think what I would just say is that we really work hard to make sure that we're being, like Dr. Zadowski said, responsible. And so when we can do this through attrition, that's really what we look to do, so that we're not laying off our staff. And I think that we've worked really hard to be able to do that this time around as well.
I do think that's important to note, and I'm glad Sam said that. We are not looking to lay off any staff members, but it is important to note that there will be some displacement. And even though we're very, very pleased to be able to offer everyone employment for next year, there will be some people that will have their typical schedule changed, and that's not always easy. Our principals have had good conversations. Sam and I have been involved in some of those conversations as well. We do think that this will work out quite well when it's all said and done. And I think we'll have more positions than we'll have people, so there might be some choice, but it may not be the priority choice for some people that are having their positions modified a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, that's what I was going to ask first. I wish we had Dominic here today for her perspective. I'm curious, there was this model of sharing specials teachers among different buildings and moving between them throughout the week. Do you feel like the logistics of that is there a risk of the logistics of that getting in the way of the student experience, or the teacher's daily routine making it manageable?
I can kind of start and you can jump in. I give our principals a lot of credit because they did have those hard conversations, and they also worked really hard at looking at their schedules and figuring out travel time and prep time and all of that. They've also looked at trying their best to make sure that those teachers are in one building per day. So we do have some staff that travel to multiple buildings throughout the day, but worked really hard to minimize that travel time in order to make sure that they arrive at and stay in one building. And I'm glad Diane's here because she's gonna be able to explain this better.
Yeah, she will. And Mrs. Schofield is the principal at Wakanda Elementary School. You all know her. She obviously was very involved in this process. And one of my things is I didn't want teachers going between Napa and Wakanda during the middle of the day. I think that's, valuable time that's lost. And could you explain, Diane, just a little bit about what the setup would look like?
Yeah, so right now our Encore or specialists run on a 3-day cycle already in our building. So they have PE, music, and art. With working with Shannon, we looked at that and we'd be able to have the same cycle. It just would be the 2 days that art and PE are at Wakanda. That'll be the day that, where am I at? Which one's up there?
Music.
Thanks, music. Music will be out at NAP. And then they'll just run on that 3-day cycle. Each day it'll just be one individual out at NAP and the other 2 will be at Wakanda.
Thank you.
So that was, spoke to the student experience. I guess I'm interested in a couple of things with respect to the teacher experience. One, does that reduce any prep time that those teachers would have?
As we're looking at it now, it should not, because the same number of sections that they would have within each of the buildings would be the same. And so that should allow for their time to be able to look the same, whether they're at Knapp or they're at Wakanda. The daily experience for our teachers should be the same, and just as the location difference.
And then, sorry, I'm just curious if you've thought about, or if you have a sense from talking to teachers about what kind of impact this might have on retention and on teacher retention, which is, in our strategic plan.
Sure, and what I would say is that each teacher is different, so I don't think we can classify what every single teacher would think. I would say generally, more teachers would prefer to only be at one building. That's not always the case though, but I think what really matters, again, is not trying to have them travel during the middle of the day and serve 2 buildings in the same day when possible. But I do think, there will be some opportunity in the future where, some people may be able to choose if they would rather not be serving 2 different buildings. Other people, they might really like it. I love driving out to Knapp, especially in the fall. So I don't know, I think some people would actually really enjoy it.
I think the other side of that is the administrative side. So when it comes to, typically in a building, the teacher reports to the principal, that is involved in the evaluations, their progress, their performance reports and so on. How is that balanced administratively in terms of making sure that teacher has both the mentorship and the administrative, support that they need?
Yeah, I think that already speaks to Shannon and I have been working together in already talking about that planning, as well as currently our 3 teachers have also worked with Shannon in the past, have also traveled in the past themselves. I think that communication and level of collaboration we already have will absolutely continue.
Thank you.
I just had a clarification. So for teachers that are placed like at the parochial private school, how does that even happen? Like, it's not a CISA thing, like they don't have, I was just curious how that happens.
Yeah, that's a little different type of thing, and that has to do with some of the mandated services that we have to provide, which is a real small amount, but we still have to provide those services. Sometimes that's with staff time, sometimes that's with other resources, and there's still some things for next year with that has to be determined. Brian, is there anything you want to add to that?
So the only thing that I would add, as far as the planning and collaboration, the bulk of our service to the parochial schools stems out of our title program or with special education. And part of that process is reviewing enrollments and caseloads in preparation, and that's an annual process. So it's a process that we're familiar with, and taking a look at making sure that we balance the time and the resources that are available, but then also identifying the best way to match that with staff availability.
I'm curious to know if the situation is the same for the high school counselor that's being shared with Knapp as well. There was mention of PE, music, and art, so I'm wondering if it's the same for the counseling position.
Do you want Tanya to maybe speak to that? That's under her umbrella.
Yes, it's gonna be very similar, not spending, not travel time. So the counselor that's out at,
Thank you.
the counselor that's out at Knapp, previous to this year was shared with, Downsville. So she was a shared position. She actually comes before she came to Menominee, she was a K-12, counselor, so she does have high school experience. So she'll be spending, we don't want that travel time, because sometimes that becomes kind of a little bit of wasted time. So we're trying not to do that, so spending full days at the high school, full days, at Knapp.
Will that reduce the number of days that Knapp has a counselor on site compared to now?
This year, but not compared to last year. So this year, and so she's out there with a total of, there's under 100 students. And so when you look across the district and you're looking at a counselor per how many students, of course that's it's our smallest building, of course that, lines up with that. And so in order this year to keep her full-time, we kept her at Knapp. However, we did pull back on school social work services, and some school psych services, so that will return again next year. So,
In the past, and I'm not sure if this is accurate now, but in the past, I know that school counselors have been assigned based on alphabetical order of last names. Is that still accurate? And then they stay with the student through the 4 years that they're in our high school?
it does, however, we're going to adjust a little bit with that at our high school, so our 3 current counselors will continue to have students by their last name. And because Britta won't be there every day, she's gonna be assigned, students based on a program, not based on their last name.
Okay, wait.
So we're getting into the weeds a little bit, if you
Yeah.
wanna talk offline. Mr. Drake is still in the middle of this as well, as is Tonya. There are some moving pieces yet, but what we can tell you is that we think that how we're planning to utilize staff maximizes the service that we'll be able to provide for kids, but we're also trying to be really cognizant of the experience that staff will have.
Yeah, what I'm trying to get at is I'm wondering if a student has a connection with their counselor, as does happen over the
Yes.
years.
Yep.
And that counselor, or say it's a student at the high school that needs to see their counselor, or, things come up as they come up.
Yep.
And the counselor's not there, the counselor's at NAP, then what will is there a backup plan?
Well, there's a backup plan now, because at any point in time, a counselor could be out. Counselor could be sick, a counselor could be with another student, could be in a classroom. So all the counselors work collaboratively together, so if a student is needing to see needing to see a counselor right away, something that can't wait. So something like, oh, I need to change my schedule, that is something that possibly can wait. Another counselor typically will step in, and help assist them.
So if I understand correctly, this plan with respect to the high school counselors would result in like 0.5 FTE less than what we had approved, what was in the staffing plan for last year. But I think it also reflects what's currently happening on the ground, is that right?
Right now, there's right now we have 3 counselors, because the one position has not been filled. So it would be more than we have currently, but less than the approved positions, because there is 1 FTE that has not been filled yet, based on the resignation.
But we are starting to provide some additional service.
Yes, we are,
So we're kind of piloting this,
So-
so
yes.
it's similar to now.
So Britta has been spending time with that transition to the high school.
And this is, I think this has been going on for like at least a couple of months. In terms of being short one counselor at the high school, is that?
Yes, it's
Okay.
been, yes.
Okay, so the question I have is just thinking about our strategic plan and thinking about like the high school kind of improvement goals that we've been talking about for the last year or so. I wanna make sure that this plan doesn't, like shortchange high school counselor availability for our students. Like that seems to me pretty important. And so do you think this number 3.5 like does the job?
I believe so. We spent lots of time talking collaboratively, trying to create a plan that would meet both the needs at the high school and the needs that are at NAP. So I believe it will. Things change. They could change next year, but I think to our best ability, I think this is a good plan.
Yeah, and Mr. Drake has done the numbers too, and took a look at counselor-student ratios and what Menominee compared to other schools in the Big Rivers Conference, and that's only one data point. I mean, what we care about is what we providing the services that our kids need. But at the same time, when you look at the ratios, we're sitting really good with the plan that's being proposed to you. So we're pretty confident that it's a good plan.
So one more question, sorry, based on student numbers, is the thought this half-time portion would be 4 days a week at the high school and 1 day a week at NAP, or what does that?
Half and half.
Half and half?
Yes, 50-50. So 50% of her time would be at the high school, 50% of her time would be at NAP.
So would she have 1 day of the 5-day week split between the two?
we talked about that, or we also talked about doing every other, so like if, let's say if it was a Friday, that was kind of the split day. 1 week she would be at the high school, the following week it would be at NAP, so there's not that travel time.
I appreciate what you said, Rachel, about, are we, with our high school improvement plan and so forth, I agree with you there. I also know that mental health is huge, and we have problems after problems after problems, and they're only getting more and more. And so I really, would like to, I guess, tell administration to really keep monitoring that very closely, because I think that, it's very possible that there could be an influx of who knows what, and so I just wanna make sure that you guys monitor that and change it if need be. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that it's probably true that this board would entertain a request middle of next year to come back with, with a staffing adjustment with respect to the school counselors. I did wanna ask one more question back to the, split specials or encore teachers at the elementary level. Again, trying to take the staff summary as a whole, it kind of looks like, so we have people who are already in these positions, some of them are actually going to be vacant for the coming school year. If I understand it correctly, taken as a whole, because we've added these art sections at the high school, this sort of amounts to a slight increase in the total FTE in art instruction, but a decrease in the total FTE of music instruction, if I'm reading this correctly. And I guess what I think about is, we just heard from our student representatives, we talked about this incredible musical that our school put on. We hear about the honors that our music programs have heard. We talked about the Pops concert. We see what's like brilliant about the music instruction in our schools. And I know when I talk to people about this, who go have their kids in other schools, like how proud I am of what Montgomery does. And so I guess I just feel a little bit nervous about seeing that total FTE in music instruction be chipped away at.
So, yeah, Brian, why don't you explain that a little bit?
Currently, the past several years, we have had the music specialist that was at NAP, or when Downsville was open and NAP in Downsville, provided a section of instruction at the high school in music. What is happening next year is the existing music staff at the high school will be picking up that one section. At the same time, depending on enrollments at the high school, we also have utilized music staff to provide support for some study skills or intervention support. And that FTE is going back into music. So your assessment of the availability of overall sections of music are still going to be covered, but it does result in a reduction of some FTE that's allocated at the high school within that department.
But study skills.
So
it's not really a cut to music programming.
Got it, and if the need for additional instruction in the study skills came up, that they needed that whatever FTE back, that could come from elsewhere.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, I mean, that is encouraging. I guess you kind of answered my follow-up question, which is just to say, it sounds like those music sections are being taken over by existing music staff who are not being like overburdened. Who have the capacity to take those on.
I think the word capacity is a very good.
Thanks for explaining that. That's really helpful. More questions or discussion on the staffing plan summary? I haven't had a lot to say on it, so. And you mentioned it being unfortunate that Dominique is not here tonight. I agree. I did have an opportunity to talk with her and have brought her questions with me. I'm speaking for two tonight. Hopefully she thinks I'm doing her justice. Other questions or discussion on staffing plan? So this will come back for a vote?
Yes.
I know that there was mention in some of the answers that we're, still figuring out some of the nitty-gritty details, but you don't expect changes before this comes back for a vote.
No, and that's operational. The board doesn't set individual teachers' caseloads or anything like that. You're just approving the staffing levels, and that's what we'll be asking you to vote on. We're happy to share it as that information, but there'll be changes in assignments all the way up through the start of the next school year. But we'll certainly let you know what our thoughts are.
All right.
One more quick thought on staffing. I just want to ensure that we're doing the best that we can, and I know that this is on people's radar, but I just want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to watch over the summer class sizes. It's so difficult on teachers, on kids, on parents, when at the last minute, 2 days, 3 days before school starts, and we're adding a section.
Yeah, we haven't done that in a couple of years. There was a year, 2 or 3 years ago, where we had some late move-ins, but no, that's old news.
Yeah, that's because I'm reminding you every year.
All right, if there's no more questions or discussion, we will move into discussion of our voucher transparency resolution. So at our last meeting, we unanimously approved this resolution on private school voucher transparency, and now we are going to discuss action on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just looking at the calendar, just before the meeting, and I think, let me propose kind of a way, this place to discuss timelines, let me kind of propose a timeline that I think might make sense. Yes, my apologies. First observation is that city council meets on the opposite Mondays as we do, right? So, we're roughly every other Monday, they're also roughly every other Monday, but tend to be the opposite Mondays from this board. So that's one useful piece of information. The next piece of information is that next week is spring break. And early April, we have the elections, and that weekend immediately prior to the elections is Easter weekend. And so there's lots of things disrupting the calendar from now until April. April elections are coming. I think that's adding a lot of stress to a lot of people in city council, and throughout the community. This board, sometime in mid-April, will be having our reorganization meeting where we choose committee assignments for the coming year. So I think, to me, based on those facts, it kind of makes sense to not try to get anything down happening before April. And maybe what we can do is, in our reorganization meeting in mid-April, we could make an ad hoc committee whose role will be to initialize meetings with the mayor, the city administrator, Mayor Beckinson, and the president of the city council, who are the ones who arrange the agenda together. Because if we want to bring this before the city council, they'd have to understand what it's for and agree to it. And so having one-on-one conversation, three conversations with them could be very helpful, and probably is necessary. We've also done talk in the community about whatever happens in April, that the city council may be rearranging some of its operations around how they do agendas. I don't know really what's going to come of that, if anything. But I kind of want to not touch their business, right, and just come to whoever is in city council in mid or late April, have a committee from this group, go to them with the proposal, explain what it's for, explain the background, and then see what their reaction is, kind of proceed from there. So I think that the first step for us would be, when we do our reorganization meeting in mid-April, to, along with our committee list, make an ad hoc committee for that purpose. And then from there, proceed throughout end of April to have conversations with the people in the city council, and have that kind of liaison committee be in place. And then that would happen, then those discussions would presumably happen throughout May and June, and that's when the school board's business quiets down a bit, so people might have availability to actually do that kind of work.
Good idea.
Yeah, I agree, with waiting until after the election, and I do like the idea of creating a, ad hoc committee at our reorg meeting, I think that makes a lot of sense. I do think we could start to think about if there are steps we wanna take in the meantime. So for example, I've heard the same thing regarding potential reworking of how the council creates their agendas. As it stands now, that kind of has to go to the mayor to get on the agenda. And what I have gleaned in understanding from city council members is that potentially one of the best ways to make sure that happens is to have multiple council members who are interested in kind of taking this up. So I do think, prior to, well, I don't know, we could go either way. I think it's an idea that prior to creating that committee, some of us, especially who live in the city, and maybe don't have council members up for re-election, to start having those conversations, in terms of taking some talking points, floating the idea, and getting people used to that.
My only hesitation with that is that, I think to set up a meeting, I feel like to set up a meeting with someone in city council or any official body, it's worth coming with a fairly prepared like kind of executive version of the document, right? Without all the ranches necessarily, but like, here's the goal, here's the example. And I think I'll speak for myself. For me personally, it would be a huge stretch to kind of prepare that sort of thing before early April anyway. With all, the various things we listened before. So it seems like it would, I don't know if it's necessary to prepare that and start that conversation right now, but if people want to take that on, I won't say no.
Do we have to address the other areas of voting the same way as you described for the city? So for each township, we also have to meet with them?
Yeah, so every municipality prints their tax bills, so if we met with this, if we got the city council on board, that would only apply to the tax bills for residents in the city of Menominee. And so if we wanted this to be on the tax bill of everybody who is in the school district, we'd have to hit all of the municipalities. Joe and I were talking about this a little bit. I don't mean to sort of staying agnostic on timing, right? Like, this could be the work of the ad hoc committee, but we could also draft a letter to send to all of those town boards. There are, I think, what is it, 11 or 12 town boards that we would, town boards and village board, that we would have to get to, so it's not nothing. And if we look at the numbers of voters, we really see town of Menominee, town of Red Cedar, town of Tainter are the largest by quite a bit, right? There's, in terms of number of people. So we might choose to put our time into some of those first, but we could also draft a letter to go out to all of them and to start the conversation. Perhaps the ad hoc committee could do that and could be done in tandem or at the same time as doing the city council outreach. Does that answer your question, Bill?
I assume it isn't all or none, so not every township has to necessarily be on board.
Yeah, well, there would be each town board would get to decide.
Menominee is quite a bit smaller than Green Bay, but Green Bay started with their city, and once they got their city on board, then they started with their municipalities. And last time I talked to anybody that knew anything about what's going on over there, they said they had one municipality that was coming on board, and that they were working on the others. So even if we don't get them right away, we might get them eventually.
I think the municipalities and townships have less frequent meetings, and so it also would be a slower process just because they might only meet every 4 or 6 weeks, not every 2 weeks, and so it might bringing it forward, having them discuss it, waiting, a month and a half, it might be a much longer process for the townships.
Yeah, and that's what I'm glad you brought that up, because I think we have to keep that in mind.
So that would be something that, again, like the ad hoc committee could take on. Another thing for, to consider, and again, maybe that's something for the committee to consider, is if we want to do outreach for other support, so for example, to the county board, right, could we, present the resolution to the county board and ask for endorsement or support, or, something there, or if there are any other bodies that it would make sense to reach out to in that way. Does it make sense to everyone else to form the committee at the time of our April reorg meeting? Is there any benefit to trying to form the committee earlier, even if it doesn't sort of get up and running until after the April elections? I mean, I think asking for kind of creating that committee while we're doing all of our other committee assignments makes a lot of sense. But I thought I'd ask, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm up for reelection, and I would love to see we're in that ad hoc committee. So, if you wanna do it, that's fine, but then you have to take the risk of not me, if I don't get reelected, that won't be in the committee.
That's a good point, that's a reasonable point, yeah.
There are certainly townships which include multiple school districts. We neighbor Boyceville and, Colfax, Elk Mound, et cetera. I wonder when we approach those townships, which may be later in the process, if we want to reach out to those corresponding school districts, so they're aware of this, and, because I imagine that if there's a township which is talking about its tax, and we're pushing it as a Menominee school district, and, say Boyceville isn't part of that conversation, they'd be like, well, more than half of our residents are in this other school district, why should we, give you this and confuse people on this complicated tax bill? So I think that's another reason to start with the city of Menominee first and work our way outward, so we can figure out what the obstacles or concerns might be, and have time to do that additional outreach through the school districts.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And some of them are, there's Tom Springbrook, I think SDMA has like 5 voters. And the rest of them are Elk Mound, so that is a really good point, like it's it would impact very few people in Tom Springbrook, Tom Elk Mound, lots of others. Tom Sheridan. Do you want me to list them? Other thoughts? So we would kind of table this until the end of April.
It looks like that meeting is April 27th, right after the next agenda item, where we are on the school board. That does feel a little late, but we could maybe discuss it on the 13th if we want to move it up a week, but I don't think there's any reason to do it earlier than the 7th of April.
Right. But again, with this on the 13th, new board members wouldn't be seated. Like, I don't know what we would discuss.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah, people wouldn't be seated. Do we know when city council members, and they have election, everyone has elections going on in the spring. Does anyone know when they do their, kind of swearing in?
It's all the same. I think it's all the same time.
Yeah, so it's probably a week and a half after the spring election or so. So, yeah, so probably we should, on April 20, in mid-April, we will know both who's on these various bodies, and who would be willing to step up for committees, and, so I think we should just wait for that real meeting without all this action on.
Would it help us be more efficient after that point if we came to that reorg meeting with a short description and kind of charge for the ad hoc committee. Do you wanna write one?
Yeah, I can volunteer between the seventh and the 27th to prepare some very brief introduction and description of what its task is. And
I could do it too.
But yeah, well, it is absolutely correct. We should have that prepared so that we know what we're talking about on the 27th and can move forward.
Does anyone object to having a board member prepare something that could be, you know, subject to change and adjustment? There's no reason it would have to be carved in stone, but.
I have no problem with it, but obviously, because you're gonna bring it to us, I mean, it's not like you're gonna do it and then it's gonna be a secret. It will come to the board you know, for consensus.
Alright. Does anyone have anything else to say on the subject of the voucher transparency timeline process? Great. Oh man, you guys, we're down at the end. Items related to next meeting dates, board committees, and reports. So, spring break is coming up, March 16th through 20th, there will be no school. So on March 23rd, we would typically have a special school board meeting. We have very little to put on that. In previous years, we've had only one March school board meeting. I don't know, do you want to say anything about that, Brenda?
Yeah, with the calendar board reports, the directors and I went through it today. There really is no problem whatsoever pushing anything that would be on the March 23rd meeting to the first meeting in April. Obviously, there's a couple action items that'll follow up this meeting, but there's really nothing that's gonna change between now and then. So we're totally fine waiting until April 13th unless the board has a reason to meet on the 23rd.
And those action items, if you don't get a board approval on until April, it's not a big deal. Okay. Does anyone object to canceling the March 23rd meeting? Great. All right, and then on April 1st, there's the CISA 11 Joint Pack Board event at 6 p.m. in Turtle Lake. There's a little bit of detail about that at the bottom. Anyone who would like to attend, please let Jenny know by March 23rd. April 6th is a professional development day for staff and a school for students. We will have our April 7th, there's a school board election, as well as other nonpartisan elections. Please vote, everybody. Then April 13th, our regular school board meeting. The QIC meets April 20th at 3:50 p.m. here at the ASC. There's a WASB new school board member gathering from 7 to 9 p.m. on April 22nd that will be held at Menominee Middle School again. Any board member is welcome to attend that. The Health and Medical Committee meets April 23rd at 3:50 p.m. Hedman, as stated, will have our reorganization meeting on April 27th. Any questions or discussion? Go ahead.
Health Committee, I think that's in March this Thursday.
Oh,
I have that in my calendar as well.
great.
I can check with Lisa. I don't know if we moved this one because we weren't able to meet in February. I believe that's what happened.
Okay, you can connect with Jenny tomorrow, get a reminder.
Sounds great.
And you're able to do that? Okay, great. So there would be no meeting in April. Okay. Fabulous. Thanks for catching that. Any other questions or discussion related to next meeting date for decision and votes?
The candidate forum,
Oh, yeah, thank you.
I can't remember what, I almost 20.
It is Thursday, March 26th in the evening
Okay.
at the.
It's 5 to 6:30, I do know that, I just couldn't remember if it was 20 to the 26th, okay.
Yes, thanks. So there will be a candidate forum for people running for school board. Did you have another item?
There was a good forum last week in Eau Claire that Rachel had a very important part of, and it was a nice group, a nice panel, very informative for me There's a lot of stuff that was discussed that I'm pretty ignorant of, so it was very helpful.
Yeah, that was about school funding. It was a great group of people, a lot of expertise on the panel, and it was a really good way for helping the community learn more about how school funding happens, or doesn't, in the state. Other questions, comments, discussion on future meetings? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to agree.
All right, let's stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.